Welcome to Single Parent Success Stories, where we share inspiring stories of resilience and hope. In today's episode, meet Kelly Etter, a former Rockette and a Pilates trainer who turned her heartbreak into healing. After divorce and depression, Kelly discovered the power of movement and nervous system nurturing to reclaim her joy and vitality. Stay tuned as she shares practical tools to calm your mind, strengthen your body, and remind you that healing isn't about perfection. It's about presence, self acceptance, and the courage to start again. Welcome to Single Parent Success Stories, a podcast designed to inspire single parents. Here you'll find resources from self-care to finances to parenting and everything in between. Discover what it takes to thrive. Let the stories inspire you to what is possible. Before we start the next conversation, I want to invite you to check out my amazing book, The Gift Inside, a powerful guide for healing your body, mind, and soul. Reclaim your strengths and awaken your true potential. Whether you are navigating heartbreak or simply seeking deeper fulfillment, this book offers the tools to turn your struggles into triumphs. It is time to unlock the gift within you. Available now on Amazon, or you can check it out on my website www.irinashehovsov.com. Guest Kelly Etter, the former Rockette, single mom, and a certified Pilates trainer with a 20-year dance career. After facing divorce, depression, and exhaustion of trying to hold it all together, Kelly discovered how movement and nervous system nurturing could help her reclaim not just her body, but her joy, confidence, and purpose. Now she helps women who feel burned out, anxious, or in pain reconnect with their strengths, calm, and vitality so that they can finally feel like themselves again. Welcome, Kelly. It is a pleasure to have you.
Thank you so much, Irina, for inviting me.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. So please share with us, how did you become a single parent?
Well, I got to be a Rockette. I overcame being born extremely pigeon-toed, with legs turned in, and the doctor suggested that as kind of a way to strengthen and turn out my legs, that my parents put me into dance classes. So it took several studios. The teachers looked at me and, no, that's not going to be a fit. She can't do that. But finally, one studio let me in, and many years later, why, yes, I got to be a Rockette. Dancing really transformed me from a little girl who tripped over her toes and was dejected at all the rejection to being a confident young lady. And I loved the movement, helped me process my emotions and express myself. And that that did, though, when I was married, take me away from my husband. We had times of living kind of bi-coastally, and so that I think challenged the relationship some. However, once we were back, I retired from dancing to start a family and had my son, and I found a new joy, and that was Pilates. Still, movement for me has been very healing and helps me help other people. And I actually I'm not even certain how I became a single parent. At some point, actually right around my 40th birthday, my husband told me after we came back from going out for my birthday, out to dinner for my birthday, that he didn't think he could settle for our life together anymore. So yeah, it's kind of a shock. Kind of felt like the rug being pulled out from under me. But we were both determined to be kind to each other and to be a good example for our son. Certainly was challenging because our marriage counselors suggested that we, kind of present a united front to my son to say that we've decided this isn't working, et cetera, and we're going to separate. But yeah, it was hard. I went from really joyful to being unable to sleep, really not being able to focus very well. It's interesting that I used to think that hearing find yourself was kind of a cliche, somebody saying, oh, I needed to go find myself. But it really hit home to me when I was in my own counseling session and my counselor said, oh, where do you see yourself in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years? And I started rattling off, oh, well, we were going to go to Machu Picchu and we were going to go to all the national parks, like in the Ken Burns documentary. And and she stopped me. Whoa, time out. Not we. That is done. You, what do you want to do? And I was a complete blank. I couldn't think of anything. I think the technical psychological term is meshed or enmeshed. I had completely become the facilitator for whatever my husband expressed that he wanted us to do. My son was pretty little. He was only 7 by that time, but still, I'd completely gone into the role of mom, wife and mom. So, yeah, unfortunately, I went through a very dark time once we separated, a time when I had been nicknamed Smile in summer stock, and I went through a time where my face just felt too heavy to smile. I'd find myself curled up in a ball on the floor, overwhelmed and unable to imagine, like, how am I going to pull myself out of this pit I've fallen into? And I was in kind of like a constant state of fight or flight, that, tiger chasing you, but also I wanted to be strong for my son and a steady calming force for him. And so, we moved into a separate home and he was in a new home. So we started needing to be close more. So I'd lay down at night with him to try to help him fall asleep. I would pray, God, please don't let him feel me shaking because I was just all the time. Fortunately, I did have to take some. I don't know, unfortunately. I didn't want to need any pharmaceutical help. So that's why I say unfortunately, but definitely it's there for a reason. And so I was taking sleeping pills and anti-anxiety meds because I got in the middle of the grocery store buying with a half full cart and have a panic attack. I'm like, I'm a good person. I can't leave all this stuff in here, but I can't stay here. It just like, it really messed with the chemistry. Cortisol, stress hormone can really mess with the chemistry in your brain. And so, yeah, so one night I was talking to my mom on the phone to kind of unwind and shed the stress of the day. And while we were talking, I took my sleeping pill and I ran my bath water and I got in the bath and we were still talking. But the next thing I knew, she was there with me and she said that I had stopped talking and that she had heard a little voice say, one more inch and she goes under. So she raced over and pulled me unconscious out of the tub. That really hit me when I realized that my little boy had almost been left with a legacy of first having his family torn apart and then finding his mom drowned in the bathtub. So that really gave me a kick in the pants. I was like, okay, this cannot keep going. Like, okay, God sent my mom to save me for a reason. And so I decided that I couldn't allow my circumstances to define me any longer. So some of the things that helped me were surrounding myself with encouraging, supportive people. Lots of times when you go through a trauma, you tend to isolate. And I had certainly started that way, just like only being with my son or my mom. Um, I leaned really hard into becoming the best mom and Pilates trainer I could be, being of service and taking my roles again, I guess, into the roles. And then also the finding myself. And I got back into dancing because I had set that aside for quite a while. And those things really, really helped me find myself again and regain confidence. It wasn't just about building up physical strength, it was also about reclaiming joy, finding confidence again. Yeah, getting connected to myself again. And so that really is why I'm so devoted now to helping others come through their whatever dark time they're going through and find the tools to help them find themselves and find joy in their life again. Yeah.
Wow, wow. Yeah, amazing story, and how you lived through it, and thank God that your mom was there to pull you out, and
Yeah,
you were able to come to the realization and face the truth that however you were living wasn't working, and you needed to change. You needed to make. You didn't know how at the time, but you made that decision. I think that we all gotta make when life is not working to our liking.
exactly. And I think sometimes we don't really realize that we're allowing our circumstances to define us. Like, okay, this ended, and if it wasn't my choice, I was rejected. It's and so then I don't have any value. And no, that's not the case. Our circumstances don't define us. We can decide how to define us. Or if you're a believer, God defines you as you're one of His, treasured creations.
Yeah, yeah. What are some of the practices kind of that helped you along the way on your journey that you've implemented in your life?
Going for walks daily, brisk walks out in nature. Again, I'm a believer, so recognizing God at work, the beautiful blue sky, the contrast, I can see it now out the window, apartment where we're staying right now, against the contrast of the green leaves. And like I said, getting back into dancing, I had set that aside for a while. Uh, his dad wasn't as into it. He would go occasionally, but that wasn't his thing, so that was fine. And that's really one thing that I can do, and that's what I encourage people often to do is think back to one thing that they can do where they completely lose track of time or of their troubles or of that, whatever that loop is that tends to go in our heads. And so dancing is that for me. So going out swing dancing and salsa dancing. And then the going to women's Bible study, going to church, and really relishing my time with my son.
Totally, totally. I can relate to the dancing bit. I used to do Argentine tango dancing
I love Argentine tango.
before. And then when we started to have a family, then husband didn't like that I was dancing with other men, I guess. So I stopped all that dancing. And after divorce happened, I went back into dancing, and it's been incredible to being able to do that again. It's You're right. It's like you do something that you don't even notice the time pass you by, and you're so embodied when you dance. You are present. You're in your body. You're not somewhere else. You're focusing. And I think that's a great kind of implementation and tool to be within yourself, because when we go through hard stuff in life, we want to escape, we want to run away. I used to not run away, but I used to spend as much time outside of home as I possibly could after the divorce happened. But what I didn't realize, no matter where I went, I still took myself with me.
Right?
And
Yeah.
we become kind of disillusioned or disengaged from who we are, and that embodiment practices, whatever it is, if it's Pilates or yoga or dance or anything. I also love singing, so that's another one of the things I've implemented. It's been incredible. And finding yourself. I also had a loss of identity after being someone else's mom, someone else's spouse. I didn't know who I was. And just like you, I used to be called the smiley Irina. And then I still kind of like plaster on a smile, but inside I didn't feel smiley. Inside everything was falling apart. And I've also went on that journey of kind of rediscovering who I am and what is it all about. I didn't want to believe that we just come here to suffer. There is more to this thing called life, and I wanted to be happy again. I didn't know how or when, but I've made the decision, and I'm happy I did. Here we are.
Well, and like you said, it's a decision, right? It's a choice, it's a decision. I forget exactly the quote, but I believe there's a Abraham Lincoln quote about we are as happy as we choose to be. And we can be happy even though we're not happy about the circumstances in which we found ourselves, right? And I also love the singing, and I'm glad you mentioned that because that's the big thing too, is yes, I joined the choir and being in the midst of all the voices and the different vocal parts and the harmonies was very uplifting. And I found that movement, as far as physical movement, moving my body helped, but also, like you said, movement of a change of environment because yes, at home there was that tiger chasing me, but at rehearsal, at church services, at women's Bible study, at counseling even, counseling I could calm down, But then and I saw the clock was getting close to my time being up, that would start again. But yes, it's a choice, and it's not an easy choice, and it doesn't happen overnight. But once you make the decision that you're going to make the best of the situation, because we can't change what happened, right? So we can only move forward. And how can I support myself moving forward? And so I also started learning vagus nerve toning, nervous system nurturing techniques, because our vagus nerve acts kind of like the brakes in our car. And when we're under a lot of stress, why our body will respond with that, like tiger at your back, fight or flight, that's the sympathetic nervous system. And so the vagus nerve, if it's toned, you can do some exercises right in the moment that can help you calm down. But also, if you're daily doing it, it can help you be less easily triggered and then recover from a stressful situation more quickly. So I now have about an 8-minute nervous system nurturing technique that I do every morning just as I start my day.
Cool. Can you share a little bit more about that?
Sure. Well, our vagus nerve runs from the base of our brain, right up here, kind of the occiput, that dent, in two branches, and comes behind our vocal cords and in front of our neck vertebrae, and branches out to all our major organ systems. So when it's toned, when you do some nurturing things to it, why it can help slow down fight or flight. And if you want, we can do a few things. It's up to you how you want to spend the
Let's
time.
do it. I'm curious.
Okay, cool. So if you will, go ahead and on a scale of 0 being no stress at all or no agitation in your body to 10 being the most, why choose a number that best represents where you are now. I was like between 5 or 6. And so first go ahead and rub your hands together, create a little heat. And this is how I learned it, is just creating a little heat. But as I've done a little bit more learning, this also, even just this, helps to quiet that nervous system, that agitation. And then put the heels of your hands underneath your eyes at the bones there, and then fingers wrap over your forehead to your hairline. Both hands, I'm just trying to show you. Yep. Sniff in through your nose. And as you blow out through your mouth, let your head become heavy in your hands and your spine start to round forward, only as much as feels okay to you. So your elbows might wind up resting on your deck or your desk, or your table, or your ribs, or your thighs, or the arms of the chair. And so we're kind of letting our head bow to our heart, and our brain can't ignore a question. So we're going to ask ourselves, what can I lay down right now? What can I set aside? What concerns, worries, doubts, fears, decisions I am wanting or needing to make? What can I let just kind of pour out the top of my head and puddle at my feet for the moment? And on our next inhale through our nose, we're going to kind of inflate our spine. So sniffing in, stacking up one backbone on top of the next, on top of the next, on top of the next, until you feel your head securely supported by your neck. And then gently taking hands away from your face, keeping that kind of cup shape. Reach over your shoulder, under your clothing if you can. Squeeze and drag forward to your collarbones. Other side too, squeezing and dragging forward. So you're taking the flesh, the muscles, squeezing and dragging forward. And something I wish I'd said at the beginning, also our fascia, it's a collagen mesh-like web underneath our skin that helps hold everything in place. Keep doing your massages, if you will. And so it can also get bound up. And so loosening that up helps to hydrate our nervous system. Our nervous system is like an electrical system. So a good hydration also helps in the health of our nervous system. And then changing the direction. So still taking fingers and coming out away from the neck bones, the vertebrae. There isn't a right or wrong. Your head might start to turn towards the hand that's massaging. It might turn away. Just giving your neck a bit of a massage. Slowly starting to walk up to that occiput I mentioned, the base of your skull, that kind of little dimple where your skull sets on top of your neck vertebrae, and even give that little dimple area a little extra love and massaging. We also have a lot of nerves in our face, and the facial nerves innervate with the vagus nerve, communicate with the vagus nerve. So brightening up that communication pathway is very important. So we're going to shift now to a couple fingers at our hinge of our jaw, and you can let your jaw drop, or you can keep it closed, or you can go back and forth. Just a little more massaging, and then making little pincer shapes. Go ahead and squeeze from the corner of your jaws and walking down towards your chin. And then once you get to your chin, go ahead and let your thumbs do a little massaging underneath your tongue. Yeah. And then take those two fingers that were massaging your jaw and gentle pressure on that orbital opening. So the bones that open for your eyeballs to go in. And a little pressure or a little bit of circling. And then once you've done the lower part of that opening, take thumbs on either side of your nose and that upper part of the opening. And again, a little pressure or a little circling. This also just helps. We tend to get so disconnected from our bodies, right? And especially when we've gone through a trauma, our brain replays and replays and replays either what happened generally or our fears about the future. And so, like you said, focusing on something, being focused in the present here and now, and becoming aware of what feels good to your body, what's nurturing your body. And then, like little raindrops, little taps on face, top of your head. Next thing is called mouth washing. So you take some air into your mouth and you just shush it up under your top lip, your bottom lip, your cheeks. I forgot to warn you, you have to get over looking or sounding silly. So our sternocleidomastoid, SCM, it's a big ropey muscle. It's easy to find exactly if you turn, look over your shoulder and lower your chin. 2 or 3 fingers drag down that ropey muscle. And then the other side, 2 or 3 fingers drag down, dragging down, dragging down. And so remember, I mentioned that the vagus nerve is running behind the vocal cords and in front of the neck bones, neck vertebrae. So that's why sound, creating sound can be so helpful. So the next thing we're going to do, we are going to be doing some sounding, one more on each SCM. So our choices of the sounds we're going to make are a closed mouth hum, an open mouth ha, ha, or horse lips. And we're going to do it while we're also kind of massaging our vocal cords. So we're going to look over one shoulder, that same arm, put that hand on the opposite side of where you're looking. Yep. And so our face and our hand are going to be like two ships passing in the night. Sniff in your nose. And then as you release there, ha, you're going to start to drag your fingers across your neck to where your head was looking and turn your head to where your hand came from. Exactly right, Irina. Leave your head there, switch hands. So your head's still over the other shoulder. Yep, sniff in there. Closed mouth hum, open mouth ha, whatever sound feels best to you. And then starting to turn your head towards where your hand was, and your hand drags to where you were looking. Yep. Leave your head there, switch hands so the hand goes to the opposite side of where you're looking, sniff in, and then as you pull across your neck and look, switch hands, sniff in as you pull across and look to where your hand came from. Just 2 more. Continue with those sounds or do the horse lips, sniff in as you pull across. Last time, sniff in as you pull across. And then a couple fingers just tapping on your collarbone. You can tap a waltz or you can just tap it. And then gently discontinue that and check in with your body again. And on a scale of 0 being the least amount of stress, agitation in your body to 10 being the most, what number would you say best represents where you are now?
I think I'm at 1.
Woohoo! So you had a 40% reduction in your stress level in, I don't know, about 6 minutes maybe.
Yeah, I love it. Powerful exercise.
Isn't that cool? That's the kind of stuff I nerd out on. I love stuff like that.
That's awesome. What's your superpower if you had to pick one?
Wow. Probably empathy or compassion. I really deeply feel about people, deeply care about people and feel with them.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mhm.
What do you think is the most important trait to instill in a child?
Wow. Probably integrity. Being able to be clear on what they say they're going to do and then following through on it. But as I say that, I get so many other things come to my head too. Like honesty and integrity are close, but then also the ability to really know themselves and feel loved and accepting of themselves so that they don't start to like be a chameleon or contort and kind of lose themselves like we each had our identity crises, right?
Yeah.
So that they can, yeah, so that they could be in integrity with who they are too.
Yeah, yeah, I think that those are important, and also keeping kind of their own identity. So when people come into relationships, of course, they come kind of from different families, different backgrounds, values, and sometimes over the course of years, you become enmeshed with the other person, and you become like the other person. And then if you don't kind of continue doing your own practices, your own recipes of what makes you who you are, then you forget. So having that in line, like what is me, what sets me apart, doing your hobbies, doing your activities, nurturing yourself physically, mentally, emotionally, to be able to maintain who you are.
Exactly, exactly. And like the airlines say, you know, put on your own oxygen mask first, right? I think women especially tend to feel like we have to take care of everybody else, and then if there's time, take care of ourselves. But at some point, then we're much more liable to have completely lost track of ourselves or burnout, and especially if we're a single parent caring for a child in a situation that has been traumatic to us, but also to the children, right? It's been very destabilizing to them. So if we aren't taking care of ourselves, then it's very hard for us to be at our best to take care of our children.
Yeah, totally, totally. If there is a single parent listening who is feel overwhelmed and stuck, what kind of advice would you share with them?
To allow themselves a support system, to give themselves permission to, it's not indulge in self-care, but it's a necessity, it's essential to have a self-care practice, to find someone or a handful of people that are really supportive and can listen without necessarily giving them advice, just be able to be with them, walk through their challenges with them, and to find some sort of physical practice that nurtures and nourishes them. It doesn't have to be dance if that doesn't do it for them. If they like hiking, if they like bike riding, walking, swimming, but something that helps release those endorphins that will also help, because we can't really just will ourselves to get through it or be happy again, right? We're such complex beings that we need to really bring in support from all sides.
Totally, totally. And I love you mentioned movement. I think movement is the easiest and fastest way to change state. When you feel angry, I say go do tennis, get your
Yes,
anger out. Or if you feel stuck, go for a walk, look at nature, appreciate the sunrise, appreciate the green leaves and how the sky reflects and the clouds pass you by. And you suddenly will have that shift. Because when we are in a problem, when we focus on the problem just becomes bigger. We don't see any solutions. So shifting away physically, getting yourself into a different environment and doing any kind of movement, I think is beneficial.
definitely, definitely. And I love how many, I mean, we all feel like we're different, and we certainly do have differences, but I think deep down in our core, we have more similarities than we do differences. And it still keeps blowing my mind how aligned you and I are. Like, how many things, because you said tennis. I forgot to mention tennis, but I play tennis once a week, right? So, yeah.
Yeah. I used to play tennis when I was still married, but I guess I was just pissed off a lot. And I remember when I would go to tennis session, I feel so much better afterwards. All the anger
Right?
was out.
Hit that ball. Yep.
So now
That's a very,
I don't do tennis anymore. I do singing. Singing helps me feel amazing. If I feel sad, if I feel down, I sing and I already feel great.
yep. Similarly, me too. Or working with my Pilates clients, right? Because it's the combination of the movement and the connection with someone else.
Yeah, yes, totally. Was there any book that inspired your journey? Or something influential that you can share?
The four agreements, especially the don't take anything personally, was quite a challenge for me, but I think it's also really helped me. And it's a process, right? Everything's a process or a journey. I haven't arrived at never taking anything personally, but I certainly take, see, this is just too cool. This is a God moment, in my opinion. Him connecting us. Yeah,
Yeah,
that would
I
be the
love.
book.
Yeah, four agreements. I think is very powerful, and it teaches
Mm,
one simple kind of aspect because we make a lot of expectations when we come to life. We expect so many things, and then we get disappointed because nobody can read the mind. And when we make agreements, I think it's so much better than if something didn't work out. It's not personal. The agreement didn't work, so we just gotta change the agreement. But we are still can be good with each other. We don't have to be angry and butt heads.
exactly, exactly. And what you said about expectations, that's something I learned in the marriage, why we would travel to visit family and we'd say before we were going that we plan to go to this restaurant or that restaurant, ones that were specific to Chicago. We'd often not be able to fit it in because of time with family rather than being able to get together with friends, and I'd get frustrated. And finally, after, two or three trips like that, I went, you know what? I'm getting frustrated because I'm expecting this and it's not happening. What if I just don't have any expectations? Right? And then if something happens that I would like to have happen, it's a pleasant surprise. And if it doesn't, I'm not disappointed. And I think that can help us in bigger parts of life too. I mean, yes, on one hand, people say, you need to have some goals or some things you're working towards, like a map. If you don't know where you're headed, you can't really get directions. But on the other hand, I think maybe, like the book says, no expectations, or holding it very loosely, because how I think often life it doesn't go the way we planned more frequently than it going the way we planned. I mean, I didn't plan to be living in an apartment in Pasadena right now. I was thriving with my personal Pilates studio, boutique studio, and I'd have group events on my deck, had a nice community, and was adding in things from the Lisa Nichols Certified Transformational Trainer program and was going to lead retreats. And then January 8th, the Eaton wildfires, everything burned down. It's all gone. So
Oh,
I'm needing to learn to navigate this. This was a very unexpected change, and I think I'm so grateful I've got the nervous system tools. I wasn't kind of like working out in the gym, right? We're we're often tearing down the muscle tissue to then have it rebuild. And we don't necessarily feel great when we're there, but then afterwards it strengthened us. And similarly, going through the divorce and single parenthood, I wouldn't have asked for that, but I think going through that helped then give me the strength for this next big, big unexpected shift in my life. Again, another feeling like the rug got pulled out from under me.
wow, wow. Incredible, and how you're able to deal with these challenges, and I guess the tools that you've learned along the way are now helping you to keep on going and creating something different.
Yep. Yep. I'm still looking for kind of exactly what is the difference. I'm trying to stay open rather than to push hard to recreate exactly what I had before. But it's a balance because I was also of service to many people. And so some of them I'm still getting to work with over Zoom. Others are, pretty much the whole neighborhood is gone. So a lot of people, a lot of my clients lost their places. And so trying to figure out, yeah, all of us, what our next chapter is. And definitely, I think it's a continued lesson in giving oneself permission to accept help from others or even ask. That's been something that has been had been a challenge for me historically through my life and getting better at it.
Yeah, you're right. For me as well, asking for help because you're always on the other side of providing help, and now you gotta switch your mentality and allow other people to help you. And it all starts with asking because if you don't ask, the answer is always no. So
Right.
by asking, we give the other person the ability to help us, and to if they say no, we are not any worse off we were as when we started because we didn't have that thing, and when they said no, we're still in the same place.
Exactly. But how often do they actually say yes? People want to help. They often just don't know how to help. And that's something my mom would say to me when first separated and I was struggling so much is, she would say, well, if, she'd list one of my closest girlfriends. If she needed help, wouldn't you, do whatever you could to help? So allow her to help you here, or go ahead and call her. Would you feel like it was a bother if she called you and needed to just say what was going on? No. Well, so, give yourself that kind of the kindness that you would give to others.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. Thank you, thank you. Are there any fun projects you're working on that you like to share?
Ironically, I got to contribute to what's turned out to be a best-selling book, which I'm excited about, called Illuminate Your Legacy. And it started with people in the financial industry, but it branched out to include other forms of legacy. And mine goes into a little more detail about my story that I shared a bit of in the intro. And then, okay, so a legacy of health, not only financial health, but physical, mental, emotional, spiritual health as well. And that actually, I contributed my chapter before the fires, but it's a lot of the tools I shared in it have been helping me since the fires, and I believe will help others around here. So I'm going to get to be part of a independent authors book signing and event. That's a little ways away yet still, October 24th in
Nice.
Pasadena, California. Yeah, so I'm excited about that. And I've gotten to do a little bit more speaking, which didn't used to be on my list. I used to be I'm a dancer, don't make me sing or speak because it's harder to cover the nerves, right? Dancing, the nervous energy can come out, but you
Yeah.
can't really often can't hide it when you're using your voice because it's affecting your breath. So then I worked on the singing because I did musical theater too. And now, yeah, the speaking, just to be able to I think it's so helpful when people who are going through something difficult get to hear about, they're not alone. Somebody else went through something very similar, and these are the tools they used, and look, they've gotten through it. You can't, isn't there a kid's book about you can't go over it, you can't go under it, you can't go around it, you've got to go through it? But then that often the other side can be better than something you would have imagined. So then being able to share, so being able to share my story and some speaking opportunities and then give people like the nervous system tools that you and I walked through a little bit ago.
Yeah, I love it, and congratulations on the book. That's amazing.
Thank you. I don't know if I'll get up to how many you have, 7 or 8, but
I
it was
have seven.
exciting. You're a rock star. I love it.
Well, it was a dream of mine, and because of the podcast, I became an author. Because one of my guests was a publisher. She invited me to be in her book, multi-author book. Back this was 22, and the rest is history. I've done 7 books in the last 3 years.
That's so cool. I admire you. Yeah, that's great. If
Thank you.
nothing else, these big shifts in our life, like the divorce, why they can. you said writing was a dream for you, so I'm so glad that came true. It wasn't for me. Similar to speaking, oh, don't make me speak, was I wrote papers in school. I did well, but it was painstaking. It was like pulling teeth. It wasn't really something I wanted to do. So if you asked me then, would I want to contribute to a chapter to a book or would I want to write a book, I'd have been like, no. But well, here I am. I've gotten to contribute a chapter to a multi-author book. I've been asked to speak and present at the Financial Trendsetters Summit back in May. So yeah, I don't know if these doors would have opened had I not gone through what I've gone through.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes we
I'm
don't
glad
know
though.
what happens and what will come through. So awesome. Thank you. Is there anything I haven't asked that you would like to share?
I don't think so. I don't think so. Thank you.
People would like to connect with you, learn more about you. Where would they go?
My website, kellyetter.com. I'm not going to go into the long story. I had a little bit of another weird thing that happened where I'm not on Facebook anymore. I got kicked off. So I'm on Instagram, Better with Kelly Etter. I'm on LinkedIn, Kelly Etter, and I'm going to be on YouTube before too long, but that's still in the works. My link tree, but I don't know quite how to share that vocally. I can put it in a comment or something when this is hosted. Why, that's got a number of ways to connect with me or participate. I have 7 days to calm. I have Uncover Your Inner Strength. I've got a few programs if people want to participate in any of that.
Yeah, totally. We'll include everything. Yeah.
Or if they want to email me directly, why, it's the number one, xrockette, EXROCKETTE @gmail.com.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. We'll include everything in episode notes. It's been a pleasure to have you. Thank you so much for sharing the tool, the Vegas nerve. I haven't known. So now I have another tool I can practice. So thank you so much.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's been a lovely conversation, and I always love sharing that tool because if it can help anybody, it's helped me so much. So if it can help anybody else, I'm honored to share it.